Well, I want to say how glad I am that I came to today's session because the advice that I've received from the beginning of this user group could be something that I can implement every day. Definitely happy wife, happy life. I understand that is extremely important and valuable. So I try to implement that every day. But yes, there's a lot of great advice given. So thanks for that wisdom. And then today, my advice, the best advice I'd ever heard was direction, not intention, determines destination. And I think this presentation will actually really demonstrate that um, throughout why marketing automation is so important. So to go ahead and get started here, just a quick agenda, and I'm going to introduce myself after this slide, and then I'm going to turn off my camera because I'll be presenting from on a different screen here. But we'll do an introduction, myself, and then also who Click Dimensions is. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what marketing automation is, and then why it's important, and then how marketing automation is going to affect us all, and what's now the new normal post pandemic. And then we're really going to jump into the focus, the meat and potatoes of our call is going to be about the 5 departments that can benefit from using marketing automation, which quite frankly has a potential to open your eyes to how marketing automation can be used in other places in your company and organization that you may not have thought of before. And then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts and then some Q&A at the end. All right, so nothing new here. James Hammond once again. I usually don't have the opportunity to give an introduction already, so you've heard a little bit about who I am. So I'm the MarTech Solution Specialist here for Click Dimensions, which basically means I have the opportunity and pleasure of working with companies and organizations who have a vision for how they want to engage with their leads and contacts and may not have a way to do that. So that's where I come in and hopefully provide a way that they can do that natively within Dynamics. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my camera here and I'm going to start to focus on our presentation. So just to give you a quick overview of who Click Dimensions is we are a unified marketing and analytics services platform in the market for organizations that use Microsoft Dynamics. So we only work Microsoft Dynamics, but along kind of those same lines, if you use Microsoft Dynamics, Click Dimensions is a great fit because it sits natively within Dynamics and it helps your company, organization, just be very efficient with your operations, because not only do you have all the data living there, but you also have now with Click Dimension, you would have all of the marketing capabilities of engaging with them or also collecting data. So not only do we have that core marketing application, but we also have marketing analytics. So we provide really an enterprise grade marketing intelligence suite to unify like all of the and analyze marketing, sales, customer data. So the way you can really think about it is it's really like an out-of-the-box, ready to go Power BI with 175 plus KPIs and 19 intelligent dashboards. And then lastly, we have marketing services, just to make sure that anyone who uses Click Dimensions doesn't just have an application to use, but we make sure you're successful with using it. So enough about us. Let's get to talking about what is marketing automation. So marketing automation really provides your company, your organization, your department with the tools to really find, nurture, and then convert and engage leads and contacts throughout the customer journey, all from one connected platform. So the tools found in marketing automation platform can vary. What you're seeing here are the most common use cases for how marketing automation is used, with some of these features to start as a trigger and then follow with some type of email communication or SMS or something like that. And really the goal of marketing automation is really to give you, doesn't matter what the department is, a canvas to really create a vision for how you want to engage with your leads or contacts, and then ensure timely and relevant communication occurs, to ensure that you're really getting the highest return on every relationship, because we know that that's what it's all about. So that being said, let's really dive deeper into why marketing automation is so important in today's digitally connected world. Okay, so estimates really vary on the percentage of businesses using marketing automation today. But the technology's rise in popularity and necessity has definitely been influenced by really a lot of factors. The internet and social media have changed buyer behavior, and we all know that because that's how like our behaviors have changed as well. So, which in turn, really has changed how companies market and sell. So, with this information so readily available, buyers are now in more of a power position than ever before. And because of that, they're really expecting more from us. They're expecting more relevant, more personalized, and more timely communications from us. Because if we're giving you information and data around who we are and what's important to us, then it's really your opportunity to be a steward of that data and how you use that data to engage in a personalized, relevant, and timely way. So the more that you do that, obviously, once again, the higher the return on every relationship. So let's learn just a little bit more about why marketing automation is so important. All right, so marketing automation technology, as we're discussing here, it really allows companies to meet those expectations of those customers, contacts, leads, constituents that you may have by nurturing them until they're ready to buy or take some type of action that you are proposing. And because of that, you are going to get better engaging. You're going to be able to better engage with your existing customers. And then overall, the key goal here is to align sales, marketing, HR, training, IT, really to align all those teams all together. And while streamlining the marketing processes and tasks for greater efficiency is the ultimate goal, we know that increased revenue is there as well as the primary need for marketing automation. Because we know if we can automate those processes, convert leads, show value, then eventually that return on that relationship would lead to more revenue or less churn and quite frankly just more efficiency for your whole organization. So this is probably something that you're not that you've heard a lot is this new normal that we're now living in. A new normal, it really does mean digital everything. You can still send direct mail and use the phone. Those are all important, but we know that everyone is connected now through digital means, and so we want to capitalize on that. And that's where marketing automation technology has recently become a lot more important than ever before, especially post-pandemic here, where there's just been a huge shift to everything digital. Thankfully, we're having in-person events coming back, which is incredible to spend time with people in person. But there's still some who are weary of meeting in person, and we're just now more connected than ever. So it's leveraging that data in an efficient way. So, excuse me. In-person events, as I just mentioned, that those are finally starting to come back into the picture. but the work is still being conducted remotely, and B2B companies are still facing difficulties with phone and direct mail, which is why that digital, once again, is continuing to drive value for every organization. So this new normal, it does mean digital everything, and not just for sales and marketing, but as we'll see, for really 5 departments that can benefit from marketing automation. Okay, so this is really the meat and potatoes of our conversation, and it's discussing, who all can benefit from marketing automation and why. So I guess my challenge to everyone on this call, if you're like me, it's easy to tune out if I start talking about a department that's not the department that you're in, because it's like, well, that's not my focus, so why should I tune in? But I want to challenge you because, it's, now is a great opportunity for really you to be a thought leader for your organization and for each department that can benefit from using a marketing automation to work for more functional areas throughout your organization. So I challenge you just to tune in to see how it can help, because marketing automation is no longer just for marketing anymore. So you'll see this in the presentation here. So let's take a look at some of the marketing automation, or how marketing automation can help each department throughout your organization. So maybe as expected, we'll be talking about marketing, but we're going to start with sales. So and I'll go through a few of these, but really sales departments today face a number of challenges that really marketing automation can help address, including the ones that you see here, and not limited to these challenges. There's always going to be more, but we all know that leads are more important to sales, but some leads are more important than others. And notifying a seller based on a lead's interactions can really help ensure a lead is engaged with in a timely manner. And next, having salespeople understand, what web pages, what web page visits are what web pages are being viewed, can help drive more personalized conversations at the right time in the right channel. And then lastly is, alerting a salesperson when they reach a certain score based on their engagement, and notifying a salesperson can really help to prioritize those leads. All right, so taking that information about how marketing automation can help sales, let's look at an example here what that could look like. So using marketing automation, you can see that a sales team could create an automated cross-selling campaign, and all the emails within that campaign can be used for that. So in this example here, a landscape equipment manufacturing company's sales team is using campaign automation to cross-sell other golf landscaping equipment to customers who may own one of the company's golf mowers already. So, using a natively built marketing solution inside Microsoft Dynamics, really makes it easy to build a marketing list of these customers or segmented a list, and then add individuals to a campaign automation. And then, using email interaction triggers throughout the campaign automation, that can help sales be notified when someone has expressed interest in learning more about a specific type of equipment. So let's talk about how it can help the marketing department. Okay, so while we've talked about expanding the use of marketing automation beyond marketing, it's important to also take a look at how important marketing strategy can be for marketers. So while the saying of working smarter, not harder is nothing new to a business, you'll be able to see this here. How many businesses are actually putting these pieces into place to achieve this goal? That's the question. Campaign automations, based on triggers and followed by actions is a great place to start to achieve this goal. Next is reaching your audience in the right time. At the right time on the right channel. This is also very pivotal for marketing communications. And then lastly is attributing revenue to actual marketing activity. That's going to be essential going forward for all marketing teams. All right, so let's look at an example of this. So one popular marketing campaign is a product launch. So that's where you can see in this example here for a consumer goods company that makes a full line of cleaning products. So what you're seeing in the top here is, really several emails are sent as in the campaign in the automated campaign here, and these are all personalized from the drag and drop email editor with information from the recipient's lead or contact data that's within Dynamics. So, just making sure that when you are creating something like this, that it's including a personalized touch based on fields that are already within the lead or contact record that they've already given you. So that's what I talked about earlier, is leveraging the data that you already have, because now that you have that data, you're a steward of that data, and the more personalized you can make your email communications, most likely the higher the engagement rate. So that's talking through how the marketing department can benefit from using campaign automation. Next, let's talk about customer service. Now, this one is one that you may not think of when you think of using campaign automation, but really, marketing automation can help solve several issues that customer service and account management teams face today, which can help to build with building strong relationships. That's at the core of maintaining any business, and then driving the loyalty of these customers. So, using surveys to gauge feedback is a great way to stay close with these relationships of your customers, so you can know when and where to pivot when necessary. Next is sending periodic reminder emails or SMS reminder campaigns. Will make renewals more of a planned event instead of a last-minute surprise. And then lastly, an example here is, really using data to understand the channel that the customer prefers helps drive better interactions with your company. All right, so that was customer service, and it looks like an example of what that could look like for customer service when using campaign automation. So welcoming new customers is a common customer service function, as I'm sure you're aware, and it can be made more efficient and effective with that marketing automation in play here. In this example that I'm showing you, this is a financial institution, and what we see is a welcome campaign for new checking account customers. Using campaign automation as for a customer service team, it can really help create not only this automated campaign, but the emails, the landing. You can use campaign automation, and you can do that with your customer service team, and they could create it not only in this campaign automation, but they could create landing pages and forms within the platform itself as part of that campaign automation. So through this campaign, they are not only able to ensure the customers are onboarded smoothly, but they are also able to present additional offerings like fulfilling credit card needs, or to something to increase customer stickiness. So next, let's talk about the benefits of training or of the training department using campaign automation. So whether they serve internally or externally audiences or both, training teams really can be found in a variety of different organizations, and they can all benefit from using marketing automation. Hosting an event or webinar is not the end goal. Having high attendance is to those events. Therefore, driving attendance would be really important here. Therefore, sending reminders before the event can help drive that attendance, and the event data can be used for post-event communications to help keep them engaged even if they did not attend. And then next, consistency is key. And then using campaign automation to communicate the same message to each learner helps to keep the message consistent and no one left out for truly better results here. And then lastly, making sure these learners attend the event will add value to them in the organization, which would be very important. So let's look at an example of this. All right, so here is how you can use campaign automation for an onboarding. So, an onboarding campaign, that's really a great way to utilize campaign automation for training. In this example, what we're seeing here is an HR software company has created a campaign automation that includes their onboarding training webinars. So, like having an integration with GoToWebinar or WebEx, allows a company to bring in event registration and attendee information, so you can automate that in Microsoft Dynamics. And then you can easily track which customers are registering for and attending your webinars. And the campaign automation also includes a helpful guide that customers can download. And then landing pages and forms that guide that can easily be created within a marketing automation solution. All right, so lastly, let's talk about the benefits and how a HR department could use campaign automation. So, as the business landscape continues to evolve, so do the challenges faced by human resource departments. And marketing automation increases in usefulness for these teams. So recruiting skilled new employees is never easy, but marketing automation can really help with the efficiency and effectiveness of reaching these prospects and new employees. Next, understanding the current state of employees with surveys can help a company adjust as needed to really drive retention. And then lastly is using campaign automation to reach a company-wide audience can ensure timely updates reach everyone with a consistent message. Now, what would an example look like of this? So, HR teams can use marketing automation internally to communicate change within the full organization. So the example that you're seeing here, shows a company that used campaign automation to keep employees in the loop on the relocation of the company's corporate headquarters. So through emails, they're able to communicate various milestones and use SMS messaging to remind employees to show up at the new location on their first day. So once the move is complete, they send a survey that can quickly and easily be built within the marketing automation platform to determine an employee's opinions on how effective the change was communicated and how well the overall process went. So just another use case of using campaign automation in a way that probably hadn't been thought of before, and for your organization and for HR. So that really wraps up what I have for us today. Marketing automation can be a communication game changer for departments throughout your organization, allowing each to communicate more effectively with their respective audiences. And then, also this expanded use of marketing automation can really help organizations in many ways, including increasing the value of their marketing technology investment that they may have already invested in today and may only be used by the sales or marketing department. And, while the ability for businesses to communicate with their audiences digitally has been important for some time now, this new normal that's been brought about from the COVID-19 pandemic, it's really made digital essential for the foreseeable future. And, it's, quite frankly, it's a trend that will likely continue. So that's all I have for us today. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope it was beneficial to learn more about how marketing automation can benefit other departments in your organizations that maybe aren't typically thought of with using a marketing automation tool.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing those.
Thank you, everyone.
I like the campaign automation for training. I actually never thought about using it that way. I guess I fell into the group that thinks about it for sales, service, and marketing and doesn't go beyond. So this was really interesting.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that the key takeaway there is that, realizing that, there's an expanded use of marketing automation within organizations that already have invested in a solution like this. And now it's just helping to make the whole organization more streamlined and more efficient. But it's really just tapping into these new ways and new ideas of how it can be used. So I'm thrilled about this new opportunity to help out additional departments, and I hope you are too.
Well, did anyone have any questions for James? I know there was some nice chat while he was talking, but any specific questions while you've got the expert on the call?
Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time today, and thank you, Heidi, for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, kind of interesting scenario right here. Our next speakers haven't shown up on the call yet, so we'll ad lib a little bit. I know they're not scheduled to start for another 15 minutes, so it seems like there was a lot of interest about Power Automate. Do you want to talk about Power Automate until they show up? You can put yes or no in the chat if you don't want to come off mute.
I'd be happy to share Power Automate things.
Yeah, I was making some notes when everybody was talking about, like when you were doing your intros about future topics, and I wrote down Power Automate and Power BI sounded like things that people might want to learn a little more about. All right, cool. So I guess not to put anyone on the spot, but Nick, do you feel comfortable launching into like a little Power Automate 101 or 201?
Yeah, I can give a demo of our products, or we can kind of dive into Power Automate other ways.
Yeah, just more Power Automate, if you don't mind.
All right, yeah, give me a moment and I'll get everything set up here.
I liked our conversation while James was talking about people that are using marketing automation and what people are using and what people have used and maybe didn't love. So it sounds like a few people are already using Click Dimensions. And then Stephen and myself have both used Click Dimensions in the past, but aren't currently using it, but want to go back because, I mean, I love Click Dimensions. I think it's a nice solution and it's great to be in the app. And, since you're part of Dynamics 365, they're all just different tables. So by extension, you can use them in Power Automate, even though they don't have a connector. It's all part of your Dataverse and your common data model. I'm just ad-libbing till you're ready, Nick. Trying to bridge the gap between marketing automation and Power Automate. So you can use Click Dimensions tables in your automations and trigger things that way too, beyond campaign automations that James showed us.
All right, so I've got a demo here. It's a little bit contrived, meaning it's got silly things, but we can come up with something a little bit more interesting. This will just maybe give people some ideas. So let's build something, and here we go. All right, so I've got this silly thing here, and it is cat facts. And what it does is it gives you cat facts. So it's just an API. And I'm using this as an example because it's just, you can think of other data sources you might have, but this one has dog facts and cat facts and things like that, where it tells you all about, you can get these facts. Now, what's interesting about this is if we go to here, we can see they have an API. So forgive me if I jump in to be technical, but I'm a technical person and I do stuff with code. So what this is doing is it gives you can get cat facts. So to get this, this is what this is doing, and you can kind of read this like this. You just grab this API and we'll make a new window here so we can show it off as we go. And that's the URL, so we'll throw that in there. And need to make so we can actually see what we're typing. And then it says if you put the endpoint of facts, then it should give us some cat facts. So here we get back this funny looking text string, and this is what's called JSON, which means JavaScript Object Notation. Basically, apps use this format of data to communicate. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build something that will harass Heidi with cat facts. So now I've got a button here, and we've got an API, and we're going to make it so that it gets random cat facts. And instead of compose, what we're going to do is we're going to add something here, and it's going to do notifications, and we're going to send a mobile notification, and we'll make that have the cat fact in it, which we're going to have from the get multiple random cat facts. And we're just going to say the text here, and we're going to send me a mobile notification. I want to send this to Heidi, so we'll have to figure out how to do that instead. And
it's okay if you can't figure that out.
Yeah. All right, let me go through because I think I'm jumping in way too far here. Actually, yeah, we're going to make this work first, and then we're going to go through how it works. So from here, we've got it having the text is coming from there. Let's see how we can do a mobile notification. And I think the only way to do it is with this send me a notification. I don't see a way to send that notification to someone else. That's a shame.
You can harass yourself. So Liz and Merlin, we just had a few minutes extra. So Nick is diving in and showing off some Power Automate fun. And then we'll get you guys up and talking about Canvas apps and model driven.
All right, well then we'll do it right here. So all we're doing is we're sending the cat fact to me, and that's going to be coming from here. We'll just get the text, and we're just going to save this, and now we're going to run it and see how it works. So we'll just run this, and again, I kind of skipped over everything, but that's okay. So now it's running, and you'll see it go through. And it's just getting all this random data.
So Nick, what kind of a flow did you build here?
This is what's called an instant flow. So basically, that depends on this trigger. So that means that it's manually triggered. So you saw when I did the test, then it's running through. It's getting all these cat facts, and it's probably going to send way too many to my phone because I don't even know what it's doing. And so it's what's called an instant flow, and that means that you control when it fires. There are other types of flows, and flows are basically just automations. The other types are where something happens in some other system, and then it automatically makes these things happen.
And for anyone coming from a CRM or Dynamics world, this type of flow that Nick built where you manually trigger is very similar to the old on-demand workflow when you would have your users click a button in your ribbon. So this is kind of like the new version of that.
Exactly, and it's still running.
You are not using a Power Automate connector, right? You're just using an API. So this is a more technical flow.
We're using a custom one. So we're using this custom connector, and that was built on this API. So this is a custom connector, and if we turn this off, we can go in and see it here. But this is a custom connector that I built. So I was kind of going to guide through that. I think that's probably pretty technical. It doesn't seem to be working, but at some point my phone is going to blow up and it's going to have like this, where cats make about 100 different sounds, dog only make about 10, and then it'll come out with the other details here as well. So just a silly little fun thing to show off how you can do, very quickly connect to services. But for a spur of the moment thing, this was a fun little demo that doesn't seem to be working. So I can stop it here and hand it off. Yeah, I don't know, it's not working for some reason.
That's okay. You didn't really have any time to prepare for this, so thank you for sharing.
No problem. All right.
Liz and Merlin, I know we're a few minutes early, but are you guys ready to talk about Canvas apps, model-driven apps?
I am.
Awesome.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours. And thank you, Nick.
No problem. Happy to share.
All right. All right, gotta get all sorted here.
Nice shirt, Merlin.
Why, thank you. I thought it was nice.
Should have told me.
I guess I just assumed you would already know. Okay, let's see.
We're not in person, so I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, these two run a really cool podcast. If you don't check it out, it's also with Ashley Steiner. They do the Dynamics Hot Dish podcast. So you should check out their podcast. It's very cool.
I'll put the link in the chat.
It's also right here on the slides.
Yeah, but then you can
us,
click on it.
You can find us on the Twitter machine if you want to. You know.
Yeah, but Merlin and I
kicks everyone
really
off.
don't Twitter, so you'll interact with Ashley there.
It's true. It's true. Okay, well, let's see. Here we go. I'm going to let Liz go first. Oh, I forgot to take the animations off this slide. Sorry.
Okay. My name's Liz McGlennen. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Right now, I'm an independent consultant and the executive director of a nonprofit called TechFluent. So TechFluent is new as of this year. We're focused on helping reduce income inequality in under-resourced communities by providing training and mentorship on D365 and the Power Platform. So we're in the middle of our first cohort. Thanks, Merlin. It started in March, and they'll graduate at the end of August. And so right now we're wrapping up training. They're starting to go into individual group project work. They're getting certifications. And then come July, we're going to be helping them find full-time employment or paid internships within the industry. And so if you have any interest in volunteering your time and hiring, junior resources, donating, check out the website. We're really grassroots. We're all based on volunteer time right now. And so any sort of help you want to give, we'd appreciate. And then I've been working for over 10 years in this space. I started with on-prem CRM, and then obviously I've transitioned to the Power Platform now, but historically been a CRM admin and consultant trainer in the past. And Merlin, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. I have a similar slide that needs to build itself out. So good morning, everybody. My name is Merlin Schwaiger. I'm also based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Also a co-host of the podcast, and I've also been helping with TechFluent. So if you are looking to hire anybody, then definitely reach out to me because I'm sort of in charge of our relations with employers. I'm also at the moment, I'm saying presently, an independent consultant, and I've been working with the Microsoft CRM product since about 2004, so that was version 1.2. Is where I got started, and over the last couple of years, I've become much more passionate about the Power Platform as a whole, and kind of advocating for using Power Platform in places maybe that people don't think about using it. So this is our general agenda for today. We're going to do a little bit of polling just to see where everybody on the call is at, because that'll help us maybe tailor some of what we say. Then we'll go through overviews of both different kinds of apps, so model-driven and Canvas apps. Talk about some different scenarios in how you might choose between them. And then we will do a demo, or I don't know if time allows, maybe 2 demos. Maybe we'll build one of each. But kind of depending on the polls, we'll decide if we're going to build a Canvas app or a model-driven app. And I will try to do that on the fly with minimal preparation. So see how that goes.
Oh, you're pretending like you've never built them before.
That's a fair point. Okay. So first we have our first poll. We've got a few polls. To respond to the poll, there are instructions here on the slide. So are you currently using Dynamics 365? thinking specifically of like the quote unquote CRM portions, or have you in the past?
And you can either text or go to that website to respond. Thanks, Heidi.
Good work. Heidi's on it. Does it tell me how many people have responded?
I don't believe I turned that setting on. Maybe we should do that next time.
Well,
So no, in its current
No.
state, it does not. We'll
Well.
give it a few more minutes.
I'll give it a second. Just in case there's anybody who hasn't.
It looks like everyone has CRM experience.
Looks like everyone has CRM experience. Great. I'm going to call that good. On to the next. Have you built a model-driven app before? So whether that's in the context of CRM or not.
It doesn't appear that the wholeev.com thing has moved forward.
I was just going to say that. We're still on the first question.
How do I? Interesting. I don't know how to make it go.
Can you text? I don't know why it's not going forward then. Hey, look.
Well, it's true. There are no responses.
There were 9 responses on the last one, in case you were wondering.
Oh, great news.
It was inactive.
Oh,
Maybe that was the problem.
Okay.
it looks like it's up
Sorry.
now.
I'm gonna say now I see the A and the B just showed up, so that must mean that it's active. All right, 10 responses. Ooh, even split.
Nice.
All right, that's actually kind of fun. Okay, I'm gonna try to go to the next one. Uh-oh. Push that one back. I don't know what I've done.
You broke
Sorry.
it.
Canvas app. Canvas app. Try Canvas app again. Ooh. All right. All right. We've got a bunch of people with Canvas app experience.
So we're leaning towards a model-driven app demo then.
It kind of seems that way. There are more people who've done Canvas apps. And then lastly, which data sources have you used for your Canvas apps if you have built Canvas apps? This one is going to turn into a cloud of words. I like that. I don't know. That's my favorite data source.
Yep. I've never seen that one before in the word cloud, so I love it.
All right, Excel and SharePoint and Dataverse. Plus I don't know. How did you build an app with no data source? What did that app do?
I think it means that they haven't built an app.
Oh, I guess that's fair. I'm too literal in my interpretations. All right, Dataverse and Excel, and a little bit of SharePoint. Sounds about right. All right. I'm gonna let Liz go for this part.
Okay. So just a quick compare and contrast between Canvas apps and model-driven apps. It sounds like a lot of you have worked with either or both. So this will go through pretty fast so that we can get to the demo portion of it. But for Canvas apps, the pros of it is that you have full control over the UI. And so you're really starting from a blank slate, like from scratch, of how do you want your app to look. And so with that, obviously comes the ability to make it as user-friendly as you possibly can and as tailored and specific to that scenario, whatever that use case is. So the challenge with that, of course, is that there's more work because you are defining the navigation in the UI as well. And so if you think about a model-driven app, like we are working within the constraints of kind of the typical left navigation, the sitemap, the ribbon that we typically would see in D365 or a CE app. And so with a Canvas app, you might have to think about, wireframing or more of that initial upfront design and put more work into that, the usability of it, because you do have that full control and you are spending more time defining all those navigational and UI elements. With a Canvas app, you can connect to absolutely like any data source. So it comes with a bunch of connectors. You can also do custom connectors. And so you have a lot of flexibility over what data you're pulling in. Whereas with a model-driven app, you would be using the Dataverse or a D365. They both connect with Power Automate, so they're similar in that way. And with a model-driven app, it does, even though you don't have full control over the UI and you're working within kind of the standard UI, but it is responsive. And so if you do pull it up on a smaller screen, whether that's, just a smaller monitor, a tablet, a phone, it does respond to that and it does automatically change the layout to make it user-friendly for that smaller interface and kind of touch or tap friendly, assuming that you're going to be on a touchscreen on a smaller device. So overall, I think Canvas apps take more time to build, but you have full flexibility, full control, and so that's and really can connect to any data source. That's the pro of them. And then I'll talk to the coding here. So like both would say no code, and there's both citizen developer tools, but I'm not a very technical person. I don't do any code at all, and I think model-driven apps are much easier to build, but technically you can build a Canvas app without being a developer. There is just a slightly more technical skill set that's needed, and obviously depends on your use case. So the more complex use cases, would require more work. Merlin, I don't know if you want to talk to that at all, but
I mean, it's not really code. It's just heavy scripting or light scripting. But yeah, you have to actually like write scripts and to make it actually do anything.
Yeah. And so then on this slide, we just have a few examples of Canvas apps versus model-driven apps. So on the left, there's one that is tracking expenses. There's one from HSale or Power Objects that's for a sales team. So this is really just highlighting how different the UI can look in a Canvas app. And then, of course, on the right, we just have an example of the Sales Hub in CE. So all of the CE apps are just, first-party model-driven apps. So just to compare and contrast about the UI. Okay, so why would you use a model-driven app? So you do have control over the sitemap. So, there's a left navigation, but of course you can control what appears there. It's really fast, really quick to set up, especially if you're familiar already with the Dataverse or with CE. So it's really just kind of what we're already used to. It does have that responsive design. It requires no code. And then, of course, you're using Dataverse as your data source. And so if you have a complex business scenario where you really should be using a relational database, maybe instead of a spreadsheet or SharePoint, you have all the pros of using Dataverse as your data source with that model-driven app. And then for best practices, when you're building a model-driven app, anytime you're creating a custom table or the app itself, you want to make sure that you don't leave it to the default icons. Like the custom tables get a puzzle piece and the app just has this ugly little box thing. And so you want to put icons in there that match whatever that is that you're building. You definitely want to tailor the URL to make it specific and as short as possible. And then you can give that URL to your end users and they'll go directly to that app. And then you want to build them specific for a team or a certain set of users that have a similar use case or scenario for Dataverse. So, you don't want just one app that has everything in it for the standard end user. You really want to tailor that experience to their needs and their processes, and standardize to kind of across the board. And then, of course, we can do like the theming. So if you're familiar with D365, you can kind of control the color. You put your logo in there. And so there's some overall branding you can do that's, in line with whatever your organization's branding standards are. And then you can kind of clean things up. So again, like modifying the sitemap to just show what's relevant. You can use areas on the bottom left, and then you can also control like what views and dashboards and forms show up within the app too. So it can still be a very tailored experience and a model-driven app without moving to a Canvas app as an option. Okay, so why would we use Canvas apps? Well, again, you have full control over the UI, so you can make that as specific as needed. It's great for kind of in the field mobile scenarios, which we'll talk through more in a minute. There's over 200 data sources, so if you need to connect to a data source that's not Dataverse, obviously Canvas apps would be the way to go. But you do have to do some scripting, so you'd want to look at coding standards, and then you would want to think about how many data connections you're connecting to from a performance perspective. And then, of course, you have to think about kind of I kind of think about it more as like if you were building a website, but the usability and kind of the planning around the UI, because you are building that out yourself. And Merlin, feel free to chime in if you have anything to add to either of these topics. You're on mute.
Sorry, no, you're doing great.
Okay, we can move on then. Okay, so next we're going to walk through a few scenarios. So I'm going to ask you guys to just use the chat for these. So the scenario 1 is just based on these things. Would you build a Canvas app or a model-driven app? So these are the set of requirements that we've been given. So the end user needs to view and interact with a data source that's not the Dataverse. If they're currently using a spreadsheet, there's going to be a lot of data entry, so over 10 columns and 50 rows, and it's heavy with complex calculations. So does the group think that we would do a Canvas app or a model-driven app? I see a lot of people chatting, typing. Wait, one Canvas app for 100. More Canvas apps. Yeah, the Dataverse is not as a data source. That's like the pretty obvious answer. What would be, I mean, if that was taken out, like, I think that's a really clear indicator. Like, do you guys feel like it would be a closer call, or would you still go down the Canvas app route? I try to make the scenarios very clear cut. Yeah, licensing. It's a good point. Got to think about that licensing always. Yeah, the calculations, because like really, we have column level or field calculations in model-driven apps or in CE, but like you can only do so much. Like there's limitations with that there. Yep. Yeah, and then like the heavy data entry too. So like that, I think could also sway like if you're thinking about a subgrid or something and how that data entry process would work within a model-driven app. Like I think that UI component could also sway you to Canvas apps in this scenario, even if we take out that first requirement. And Merlin, if you go to the next slide, there should be a picture of it actually. This is a real life use case.
Okay.
Yeah, so it ended up being a Canvas app, and we ended up embedding the Canvas app within a model-driven app. So I answered my question there, but this is a picture of it. The one thing I'll note here that I learned as part of this project is that the save, like autosave and the save button within the model-driven app does not actually save the Canvas app. And so notice like on the top right here that we actually had to add a save button, and the end users were actually missing it. And so it was like we tried to make it really big and really obvious because they were not used to having to like save something within kind of an iframe or subgrid within a model-driven app. But they went this route really because of the calculations and the heavy data entry. Yeah, so we can move to the next scenario. So this scenario, again, I want you to decide if it's Canvas app or model-driven app. So it's frontline workers. If there's text in the field, they're going out and installing doors. They'll be accessing it through a mobile device, and then they need to upload pictures to OneDrive. So please answer in the chat if you think this should be a Canvas app or a model-driven app. Yeah, you guys are right on. It's Canvas too in this scenario. I mean, you could definitely make it work, I think, in a model-driven app, Heidi, to your point, but it's just about like what's the like user experience for the end user. And so anytime there's something like very task specific, and you're on your phone and you're kind of like that tech in the field, typically, I mean, field service set aside, right? That you would consider maybe a Canvas app for that, just because it's a very specific process and you want to make that as easy as possible for them. Should we move on to the demos?
I guess we might as well. All right. So let's talk about a demo. What should we build? I will say that personally, I enjoy building a Canvas app because I feel like it's a little bit more fun and exciting than building a model-driven app. But if we really wanted to build a model-driven app instead, we could go that route. We've got kind of our three different kinds of apps. I included the screenshot here from like the app builder from the maker portal. We're not going to be building a portal app. I'm sorry. Even though portals technically falls under Power Apps, we're not going to build a portal. So what do we think? Canvas?
Someone said build a Canvas app but use Dataverse.
Ooh, tricksy.
And I think our poll had model-driven apps winning, just by the way. But it was close. It was like 50-50 to like, I don't know, 60-40.
I'm going to say it was pretty close. Yeah. Can we make an app that will annoy Heidi? Maybe. Okay. Well, let's see what we can do here. I am just fiddling about over here in this environment, trying to make sure that I have the things that I need. But I don't know. We'll see if this is going to work for us. Okay. So let's build an app. And Canvas apps, run into issues using Canvas apps using Dataverse. All right, well, let's see if we can do it. So let's create a Canvas app. This is going to be lead entry. So hopefully we will be able to use Dataverse for this. And I say hopefully because I'm not sure if my environment is going to cooperate with me or not. So we'll see. All right, so Canvas apps starts out relatively straightforward in that you get a screen in your app. And there are a few different ways that you can add things in Canvas apps, which, I don't know, typical Microsoft, I guess. There's always like 6 ways that you can do something. So you can add things off of the insert pane and say, oh, these are all the different things I might want to insert. You can add things off of the buttons at the top. So I want to add another screen that does something, or I want to insert something from up here. I'm not particularly consistent while I'm building my Canvas apps because some things I find easier to get to up here and some things I find are easier to get to over here. So I just sort of like, I don't know, do whatever I'm feeling. But your general layout is going to be different screens, and then on each screen you put the different components. So I'm going to start out with my screen. First best practice is rename everything. And the reason that you want to rename everything is so that you can find it and reference it later when you're doing your formulas. And because otherwise it just starts naming things as like screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. And then when you tell it I want to navigate back to my home screen, you don't actually know which screen that is. The other thing that's sort of useful there is because you do end up doing a lot of scripting, you want to be consistent about your naming strategy. So you want to generally, people will like prefix something on like every screen is like an S underscore or, you know, a screen or something like that. You just want to make sure that you're consistent so that you remember what you've named things when you get there. So I'm going to go screen, and this is going to be the home screen. And then I'm going to add another screen that's just going to be blank for now. And I'm going to call this the all right, so I've got 2 different screens. Great, they do absolutely nothing. So first, let's see if we can connect to some data, and let's see if my database is available. This environment has no tables. This environment has no tables. Well, that's going to be a slight problem. Please hold.
Live demos are so fun. You're doing a great job.
Are so fun.
Are there any questions right now?
Let's pause for questions. Well,
this might be a dumb question. I guess what's the difference between like building an app like Canvas versus like using like Power BI and kind of building something through like Power BI?
the experience is going to be pretty similar in that, well, I guess Power BI is a little bit different because Power BI, you've got Power BI Desktop. And so you're actually using an application on your desktop to build the report in most cases, but then you're publishing it to the cloud. Building apps, you're only doing that in the cloud. You're just doing it in a different spot. And so now I'm at the Maker portal, make.powerapps.com. And in here is where I can see all of my existing apps, create new apps, connect them to things, et cetera, et cetera. Is that what you mean by your question, or do you mean something a little different?
Yeah, that definitely helps. Yeah,
Okay.
Definitely helps.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
And Merlin, while you're looking into that, I'll add that like the reason why you would build a Power BI dashboard versus an app is completely different. So like Power BI dashboards are for analyzing and consuming data. And like you can embed apps into a Power BI report too. But like typically Power BI reports are not meant for like data entry or like interacting with data. Like that's when you would go to an app.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah, and that is a good point. So you can put Power BI reports in your apps, and you can put apps now in your Power BI reports. So you've got like flexibility to go either direction.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just I can see my database is there. The app doesn't see my database. Well, let me, when in doubt, go to a different environment. So,
Are there any other questions right now?
ask for other questions.
What are the most popular Canvas apps that you build for your customers? What use cases?
I've already used up my use cases. Honestly, like I have so much more experience. I do so much more with model-driven apps. Like I do model-driven apps 98% of the time, and then 2% of the time we're considering Canvas apps. But like that's because most of the projects I'm on, they already are using D365. And like Canvas apps take so much more time to build that it has to be something, there has to be a really good reason to go the Canvas app route.
Mm-hmm.
Merlin, I don't know if you have other scenarios.
I'm actually trying to think if I've if I've actually made production grade Canvas apps for anybody. There are, I think, a lot of situations where I've seen Canvas apps in use. One popular example is kind of like the salesperson like field app. Like I am a salesperson and I am, out and about doing whatever. And I want to get quick access to, like the things that I need to see without having to like log in to, I don't know, whatever. Use the out of the box app and then click around a whole bunch. So it's definitely been something that a lot of salespeople like because they sort of get that tailored experience. Like here are the big buttons that I can push, and those buttons will give me exactly what I want.
I can share another use case. I didn't build it, but a friend told me about it, and he built it. It's like a animal wildlife like removal. Like he lives in Florida, so I'm like picturing like, oh, there's like an alligator in my backyard, and so you're like calling the tech to come out and like deal with this animal pest. And so again, it's in the field. It's super XRM-y. Like it's not gonna fit into any sort of existing first-party app. And it's like a simple process, and it's a very specific thing that they're trying to do on their phone. And so he built a Canvas app, and it's a small business too. Yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know what XRM is, it's kind of an old term, but I still like to use it. It just means like a non-traditional way to use Dataverse or a model-driven app or a Canvas app for that matter. So it doesn't fall within the standard like sales, marketing, customer service, field service, kind of typical CE modules. And so because it is a relational database, like you can literally use it for any scenario out there and track whatever you need to. So, I mean, Merlin, I feel like these days, if we used like the wedding planning app, we could have made that like a Canvas app instead of
yeah.
But we built it in CE because apps weren't a thing back then.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a topic for another fun day. Is the wedding app. All right. So I switched environments. Now I have an actual database. I checked to make sure I had an actual database. Oh yeah, Heidi, that's a good point. Using Canvas apps to rebuild InfoPath. That was a sort of big replacement effort. Okay, so in a different environment, this one actually has Dataverse working for me. And so in my environment now, I've recreated my two screens. I want to be back on my home screen, and then I'm going to connect to my data source. That really matters. So what I should see when I'm building here is all of the tables that show up in Dataverse will show up here on my data source list. I can select the table. And now it's loaded itself up. And so now I can actually use this. So I'm on the home screen, actually. Now I'm going to go back to my list screen because now I want to add a gallery. So we will add a vertical gallery. And the fun part about Power Apps is that often it's pretty smart. So since I've connected to data, it's suggesting maybe you'd like to connect to leads. And as long as I select that I would like to connect to leads, then it automatically connects to leads and drops that information into the gallery. If I have pre-configured views, so these are all of the system views that show up in Dataverse or in Dynamics. If I want, I could use one of those views, and it'll actually use not only that filter, but it'll also adjust the columns in most cases to match with the view. But you can see now I have a list of records. There we are. I've also got different layouts. So this one includes the images. If I know that I'm not actually going to have images, I could switch it to a different layout, and it will change what that layout looks like. And then for my fields, I can say there's the title, which shows at the top, and then there's a subtitle. This is using topic for that. If I don't want to use topic or I want to choose something else, then I just pick something else. Maybe I'll choose the created on date here, just for giggles. And so now I have my gallery with my list of leads. Again, I want to change this. Find it again later. And I can resize it and kind of do whatever I want with it. So I can around. You can also, you may have noticed I just sort of accidentally clicked on the individual components within the gallery. So I can actually, on each of these individual components, I can make changes as well. I could move those around. They just sort of get dropped in there by default by the gallery, but I can move them around. I can change colors. So I've got things like color over here. So if I want my text color to be red, I can change that one to red. I can change my subtitle to be this lovely green color. No, that's terrible. That's kind of terrible too. I'm going back to black. I can't handle it. So I've got all of my properties over here on the side for all these different things. And then I've got this cool little button, which just shows up there, but doesn't actually do anything yet. If at any point I want to see what my app actually does, there's a little play up here in the corner. I just hit play and be like, oh, hey, wow, cool, it's an app. Oh, look, I click on this and nothing happens because I haven't made anything happen yet. Also, did you know you can hold down the Alt key? So if you hold down Alt, you can also click on things and interact with the app as though it were running instead of clicking on things to actually select them. So you can use the Alt key to do that. So I've got a list. Let's go back. Let's go back to the home screen and let's drop text label in here. And we're going to call this app for user group. Make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to move it to about there. And we're going to center that, and we're going to make it bigger, and we're going to make it more colorful. And I feel like we need some more color on this page. So I'm going to put some rectangles in. And this will give us a little header that we can use sort of as our navigation bar. So there, look at this. Oh, this is just the most beautiful Canvas app I've ever created. Don't mock me too much.
It's not really that pretty.
It's truly terrible.
But I think you're really emphasizing the need for like design, which you would never have to think about if you were doing a model-driven app.
Right. So I have this beautiful homepage, and now I've added a button. But my button, again, if I hold Alt and click my button, it does absolutely nothing. So what I need to do is actually tell my button to do something when I click on it. And so that is the onSelect property. And so this is where we get into a little bit of our scripting. So what I want to do is I want to navigate to my list screen. And that's what I want my button to do. So now if I hold Alt and click on my button, it takes me to my list. Huzzah! On the list screen, actually, I'm going to go back to my home screen. I'm going to steal this blue bar. So I'm just going to copy it, paste it, because I'm going to use this as my sort of overall navigation space. And in my little blue bar, I also want to add a button. This is not going to be a button like the first button, though. This is going to be a little icon because I want the home icon. Put the home icon over there. I want to change that so that it's no. I want to change that so that this is white. So there's my little icon. And again, I need to tell it what to do if somebody clicks on it. So this is going to be navigate back to the home screen. And you can't see what I'm doing, but every time that I'm automatically selecting something, I'm hitting tab and it's automatically completing it because it's got essentially IntelliSense. So now, if I hold Alt and click on my little house, it takes me back here, and I click on my button, it takes me back here. So now we've got some basic navigation. Great. The next thing we want to do is I'd like to be able to see more data on these leads when I click this little button over here. So now...
Hey, Merlin, Heidi has her hand raised, so she has a question.
Heidi.
Oh, I don't want to interrupt your flow. I had a question. You'd mentioned on your slides before when you were going through the differences that model-driven apps are responsive by default and Canvas apps are not. Now, I am 100% a model-driven app builder, so I am curious, and is there a way you can design your Canvas app to be responsive? There has to be, right? How do you do it?
I believe that there is, but you have to do it yourself. I'm not actually sure the best way to do that. One thing to point out, and actually I'll just bring this over here to show, is when you're actually creating the app, you get to choose if it's tablet or phone layout. And so if it's phone layout, then it gives you sort of a narrow phone size screen. And if you choose tablet, then it gives you the one that I'm working with. But other than those two options, I believe it's really like difficult and ugly to try to make them responsive. I believe you can.
Cody bits come into play.
Right. I believe you can do it by like, I don't know, doing a bunch of like formatting on like your sizing or something and with a bunch of formulas, but it's not going to be easy. I wouldn't recommend
It's a lot harder than a model-driven app where you just
Right.
don't have to do anything and it just works.
Right, it just works. Just reflows itself.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so if I want to be able to see stuff, I need to have a form in order to do that. So let's drop in an edit form. Put it over here. Yep. And we will connect that to some data. And we will connect it back to our leads, just like everything else. Oh, fine, I'll do it over here. Sometimes it's kind of a pill. Okay, so now I have an edit form, and specifically when you're using Dataverse, the Power App will automatically just grab some fields. I'm not actually certain what criteria it uses to pull those fields, but it always defaults to some set of fields. They may or may not be the fields that you actually care about. So again, you can edit your fields. And this gives you something sort of similar now to the new Dynamics view editor, where I can add more fields and I can kind of move things around. So if I don't actually care to see created on here, I can pull that off. And then I can add things like the first name and the last name. And then on each of these different controls, so you see it's sort of like collapsed by field. You'll see that this one is set to view, and these are set to edit. So I can actually, I'm going to take off full name because that's kind of useless to me. But I'm going to put first name and last name up here instead. And if I don't want somebody to be able to change that, I can switch it to view only. You can see I've also got some level of formatting. So I can say that it's a phone number or it's an email address, and then that'll change how it displays in the actual app to the user. So let's add field as well. And we'll put that as just a view email. So once I've changed my fields, you can see now it includes all of these different fields. If I want these to be different sizes, I can actually drag them and make them different sizes. And it'll flow things around for me a little bit. I want email to be a little bigger. There, so now I have this really, truly hideous edit form that also isn't doing anything. So as you can see, there's no actual data in here. It's not connected to anything. So now what I want to do is from this action, when somebody clicks here, I want to populate the data over here. But an interesting thing about Canvas apps that I find is a little bit different than a lot of other sort of like programming or scripting things is in a lot of programming situations, you would say, and we even did it with our buttons already, when I click this thing, then I sort of push an action to somewhere else. But in Canvas apps, specifically with things like forms, instead of saying on this button, on select, like make the form show this data, what I actually do is from the form, I say, set yourself to whatever is selected in this list. So what I'm going to do here is my data source is leads. I need to find the item, and the item is going to be the list. Wait, did I rename the list? In my list, I don't think. Oh, I renamed it to G, so it's a G list. G lead list dot. Now, if I use my Alt key, see that it updates whatever's here with whatever's over there, whatever I've selected over there. Kind of nice. Okay, good. So that's working. But now, what if I change some data over here? What if I want to actually enter a topic and have it get saved? Well, I don't have any way to save right now, and I don't have any way to enter a new lead. So we're going to add some more icons and make both of those things happen. So I'm going to add a plus icon. And I'm going to add the save icon, which for those of us who are a little bit more advanced in age, isn't it kind of funny to think that modern day children will know of the save icon as being a save icon, and they'll have absolutely no clue what it came from. Like, what in the world is this save icon supposed to represent? I don't know, it's just a save icon. They will never seen a floppy. They will never have seen one. It just cracks me up. Okay, so I've got my icons here, and now I'm struggling to select them. So, fun fact, everything in the tree view, everything that you put on the screen shows up in the tree view. So for whatever reason, you can't like click on the thing that you want. Like right now, this, for some reason, my box is in front of my icons. That's no problem. I can always find them and select them over here. This is also a good opportunity to rename them. Save icon, call that our new icon. Okay, so each of those icons, what we want to do is tell the form to do something. So what the save icon needs to do is when somebody clicks it, I want to tell it to submit form. Which form? Form 1, because I didn't rename my form. It's called form 1. Other fun fact, if I go in here and rename this to lead form, and I look back at my save icon formula, it is smart enough to update it. So if you forget to rename something and you rename it later, it is smart enough to go back and change the name in all of your formulas. So now that will submit my lead form, so it will save the data that I've entered. And if I go to my new icon, what I want to do here is, I think it's reset. So now, let's see if this works. I'm going to go to my home screen and hit play. All right, so now I'm using my app. So let's go to our list. All right, cool. Here's our list. If I select my things, all right, I can see all the things update. That's great. That's great. Let's see if I can create a new one. Nope. I think it's actually new form command and not save form command or reset form. Let's see if I put in a topic here. Same will work. Little dots are flying across the top. That seems like maybe it worked. Let's go to a new one and back again. Here's a topic. All right, so the topic saved, but the new record did not work. Aiden, have I used the patch function instead of submit form? I have not. I find the submit form seems to work pretty well, so I do that. You know, if there's a compelling reason that I should use patch instead. Let's see if my new form works. Oh, that's funny. So I hit a required field, but I set this as a read-only field on my form. So now I can't enter the email address and it's required. So that's fine. That's good to know. Yes, I don't need you to show me that again. So now I'm going to go back here and change this. Actually, I'll change it here. Email. Let's be edit text. Sorry, it sounded like somebody said something. Okay, maybe not. That's fine. Back to play. Now let's see if I can save it. Little dots went. Hey, look at that. It's in the list. It worked. So now I have a very basic app, and it's working. I had to use patch instead of using submit, requiring us to fill in all required fields not on the form. So maybe that's the benefit, is that I could have, if I were using patch instead of submit, then I might not have gotten that error with the email address. So I've only used it with submit. In most of my use cases, that seems to have worked. Is there something specific, some problem that you run into with patch and using patch instead?
Yeah, it's awful.
Okay, well then just use submit and problem solved.
Why is
That
it
would-
awful?
There's just so many things you have to do for somebody who doesn't code. There's a lot of other stuff you got to write in step by step. Where submit wouldn't work because we have required fields that the whole point was to build a Canvas app, so we don't need those required fields filled in. So it's kind of bypass the required fields, make it quicker. We got 95% and then just give up.
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I can't help you with patch. I haven't used it.
Do
What?
a model-driven app and use business rules to unrequire the field. I don't know.
We tried that, but it wouldn't work either. Believe it or not.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that work?
Because we were doing a quick close on a quick create for an opportunity. So there was only certain amount of required fields, and because you can only have one form for quick create on an opportunity, we couldn't hide. It was a really weird situation and
Yeah.
business rule.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could have multiple quick create forms?
Perfect.
They
Would
need
solve
to
everything.
add that in, I feel like.
Okay, potential workaround. You create a new table in Dataverse that is just the opportunity quick create. You build a Canvas app that just talks to that table. You put all the actual data into that table and you use a flow to create the actual opportunity because the flow won't care about the required fields.
That's a thought.
Might work. Might work. Yeah, I don't know. Because if you're hitting the API directly, which is what the flow connector would do, then I don't think it checks for required fields. I think that might work. He says, hoping. Any other questions, comments, anything else I should add to my app? Looks like I'm right at about time. Is this my time? Are we at time, Heidi?
We are. You have a minute.
I have a minute. Any final questions in the last minute? I didn't even get into the fun stuff, guys, because you can add like camera controls in here and then start taking pictures. It's kind of a pain to then write the pictures to somewhere, but it's cool to take the picture. And it looks great on the app.
I like the barcode scanner too. I think that's in like the AI stuff that you can tap into, and the forms processing. There's some really neat stuff that you can dive into.
There's a lot of stuff that you can do in here that like I haven't even scratched. Like I've never really clicked on the AI builder or the mixed reality buttons because that's beyond me. So, but yeah, there's
Me
a
too,
lot.
but I've seen other people click those buttons and it's neat.
Awesome. We'll get one of them to do a presentation then.
Any questions for anybody? Any presenters today? I know we're at time, so if you have to drop, you could drop. But thank you, Liz. Thank you, Merlin. Thank you, James.